I'm just going to say my welcome again. Welcome to our first virtual Tech Bootcamp demo day. As I mentioned, this is our third bootcamp, demo day bootcamp, Tech Bootcamp demo day. Say that a few times. And before we get into the slides, I'd like to invite Jim Rinaldi, our executive director, to just say a few words just about Innovate and the bootcamp and the students' involvement. Jim?
Thank you, Rafi, and welcome everyone. This is my first one, and I'm very excited about it. I also think this really goes to show what Innovate at UCLA and being part of UCLA really brings to our members and brings to the students of UCLA as well. And I really do appreciate the attendance, and I appreciate all the judges and all the coaches and things, and especially Rafi for pulling this together. He certainly has the passion and the excitement that he brings to do this. And I think it's absolutely one of the most fun things to do is to hear the pitches from students. Because they're I'm sure going to be quite brilliant. And I know that it's something I always looked forward to in other venues that I was a part of. So Rafi, thank you for doing this, and thank you for everyone attending and participating.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for the introductory remarks. Just a few housekeeping items. Just please, if you're not speaking, please mute your audio. You can keep your video on, but please mute your audio. You know, when we get to the presentations, we want to avoid any distractions for the students in terms of audio. I just have few slides just to acknowledge, you know, there are a lot of people who made this Tech Bootcamp possible, and I'd like to acknowledge them. Let's start with the first. It's the first of all, I'd like to kind of give you an overview of our bootcamp. We had 315 total applicants. This was a record, we were supposed to have this bootcamp in the spring, but due to the pandemic, we rescheduled it for the fall, and we had to convert it to virtual. So we transferred those applicants from the spring quarter to the fall quarter to this quarter, but the total was 315 total applicants, which was, you know, which was a record. Remember, in 2018 we started with 40 students who applied, so this is a big improvement. Out of those 315, there were 271 net applicants. Some had graduated already. We had applicants from USC. We had applicants from UC Irvine. We had staff members from UCLA applying. We had faculty who applied. So, you know, the net number of applicants was, you know, came down to 271. Out of those, we accepted 28 students because we only had 4 coaches, and each coach basically coached a team of 7 students. And this is kind of the breakdown of the class levels. You know, we had 3 freshmen, we had 4 sophomores, 8 juniors, 7 seniors, 6 MBAs. We had 1 MBA student the bootcamp last year in fall, but this time we were able to increase the number of graduate students in our applicants. And also we had good diversity between male and female students. And also we had 9 non-STEM majors in the bootcamp out of those 28 students, which is also great. If you'd like to learn more about the curriculum and the program and the details, there are videos, and there's the entire curriculum. It's on that link, ytp.ucla.edu. First of all, I'd like to thank our sponsor. The Walt Disney Company sponsored this bootcamp. We're very proud of that. Amy Sanchez is attending this demo day, and she's a UCL alum, and she was just wonderful. You know, Walt Disney wants to recruit UCLA students. This was a good opportunity for them to work with us to recruit top talent from UCLA. I'd like to thank the committee, the planning committee. We've been working on this bootcamp since January, actually, when we're planning a spring bootcamp. But then, you know, we stopped, I think it was in April, and then we continued back on in, I think it was in early August. So Adrienne from the Career Center, Shaheen from Sony Pictures, Tom Lee is a student, and she's also a participant in the bootcamp. This is her second time actually participating in the bootcamp because she has enjoyed it too so much. Actually, third time. And Varchaz is his second time. He's also a student. Bonnie is her second time. Bonnie got an internship at Microsoft because of the bootcamp. So this is, this bootcamp is very helpful for the students because of what it offers in terms of practical, business skills and soft skills and digital skills. Bill from the School of Engineering, he's also on our board. Dominique is a recent graduate. She was on our committee, but she graduated, so she stayed on, but she's an alum now. And Isabel from Avery Dennison. She's also very helpful in getting us speakers and so forth. So thank you, committee. Round of applause for the committee. Thank you so much for helping us put this together. Thank you to our judges. We have 7 judges today from the private sector, from the public sector, from academia. We have Jade from Box. We have Jim Davis, our vice provost from Office of Information Technology. Lucy Avedisian is our CIO. She started this year, mid this year. So thank you, Lucy. Peter Liu has been from LA County. He's been very supportive of the bootcamp. As a matter of fact, we had a member, a committee member last time on the committee from LA County, Jagjit, but he was unable to continue with us for this quarter, but he's going to come back next year and help us again. So Peter, and his team has provided us with social problems that we worked on. So thank you, Peter. Jim, of course, Jim Rinaldi, our executive director, former CIO at JPL. Thank you, Jim. Leah Erickson from the City of Long Beach. She's a CIO at City of Long Beach. Thank you, Leah. And Doug Getz, Doug is from Fox, senior VP at Fox, and he's on our board. Very supportive of the bootcamp and the students. And he actually attended the bootcamp the demo day last year, and he enjoyed it so much. It was in person, and that's why we invited him to be a judge this time. Coaches, these coaches, they're doing this voluntarily. They did, for the past, actually started early October. They've been helping the students on a weekly basis throughout the weekly workshops. We met every Wednesday for 6 weeks. But even in between those meetings, the coaches met with the students, had meetings with them. I can see the traffic on Slack. It's just, they've been so supportive to the students. They provided guidance, and it was just tremendously helpful for us to be able to, we couldn't have done this without the coaches. So Shibani from USC, Chad from Pariveda Solutions, Naresh from Avasant, and Hunter from ADP. So thank you to all the coaches. You made this all possible. Thank you. And we also had speakers and session experts every week. And the speakers would basically just come in and present a business topic or a digital, technical topic, technology-related topic to the students on a weekly basis. So, some topics were AI, ML framework related, or project management, product management. And these individuals have contributed. They were there on a weekly basis to help the students, present these topics. And the session experts were kind of like subject matter experts. Were just available for the students to ask questions, to bounce ideas off. Jagjit from LA County, Devin actually was, one of the first students participated in our bootcamp, and he came back. He wanted us to come back and help, so I invited him to come and speak. He graduated already, and he came back to just kind of help the students and guide them through the process of building a product. He's a software engineer at Venmo. Alex from SAP. And City of Long Beach, we have Nish and Berang, who are also here today. Bentley and Simon. Simon is also on our committee, and he was also a former coach. So this is a big community. And if any one of you would like to be a coach or would like to be a speaker or session expert, please reach out to me. The students always want to hear from the industry leaders, and would love to connect with them. So thank you all for participating. So now, after this, what we're going to do is for the students, we have 4 teams. Each team is going to be presenting their pitch. Each team has 20 minutes to present their pitch. And after that, the judges will have 10 minutes to ask questions to the students. And then we'll repeat that 4 times. So please mute your audio. As the students are speaking, I'll spotlight them so we can see who they are. You can put your view on speaker view in the upper right corner. And that way you'll hear the speakers. And as the students are speaking and presenting, I'll spotlight them so you can see all the students together in one screen. So with that, we're going to go alphabetically based on team names. So the first team, we have 4 teams: Beauty and the Bays. We have, then it will be Cruising for a Bruin. Then it will be Control Z, and then will be the Quarantine team. The Quarantine. Okay. So first, we'll start with Beauty and the Bays. Beauty and the Bays, you should all be able to. Are you guys, Beauty and the Bays, where are you?
Warren, do you have control?
They should have control of the screen and as well as their audio and video. Daniel, Karishma, Richa, Richard, Tanvi.
Yeah, we're here. We'll just get started.
Okay, I'll stop the share.
Warren, I presume you're going to be sharing. Did we lose Warren?
Yeah, I don't think Warren is in the call at the moment.
Oh,
So
he just logged in. He's in the waiting room.
He was there early. He must have dropped off.
Okay, should we switch to another team while Beauty and the Bays is getting ready? Let's go to Cruising for a Bruin. Cruising for a Bruin?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, awesome.
All righty. Is everybody else ready to take notes or ask questions or? All righty. In that case, I will just let us get started. Hello, everybody. We are Cruising for Bruin. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your Wednesday, this lovely pre-holiday season, to come listen to our pitch. We are super excited to tell you about the product that we've been developing called The Root. But before we get into that, first, I want to introduce our team. So I was incredibly fortunate to work with a bunch of my fellow teammates, as you can see here on the screen. And Tanil, Victor, Grace, Jean, myself, Martina, and Ram, we're the team that were behind the production, development, and research of making our application, The Root. So I've been talking about The Root, obviously by name, but before we actually get into that, I'm going to give you an idea of what our presentation is going to look like. So first, I'm going to go into the problem space, the problem that inspired the development of this app, and some of the research that we decided that made this problem something worth solving. Second, we're going to go into our user insights, some of the research and interviews that we conducted to get a better idea of the people that would be interested in using our app. Third, we're going to go through a brief demo of our solution. Fourth, we're going to go through the technical specs of that solution so we can highlight what we were most interested in developing. And fifth, we're going to look into the business applications of our solution and how we hope to scale it up and further develop it in the future. So first, let's consider the problem that we are interested in solving here. As students, we were all very interested in looking in the ed tech space, specifically, and felt that, especially in the COVID-19 era, that there is a lot of potential to improve the feedback between students and teachers. At present, based on our research, we saw that first, that there's too little. There's not enough reception from students on their understanding of course material for the teachers in general. Secondly, what reception there is too late. Oftentimes, students don't get to have that communication of what they're having problems with on their on the topics until graded assignments come through. And finally, that this feedback is often too broad. It isn't lesson specific, and it makes it difficult for teachers to really identify pain points in their teaching style. So this was the problem that we wanted to solve. But before we could really look at what would be the most effective way to solve this problem, we looked into some research, and we found that a 2019 research study showed that students felt that lesson-specific feedback provided teachers with the best understanding of where they can make improvements that really drastically improve the quality of their lessons. So with that being said, this is a problem we wanted to solve. So we wanted to look more into some user research, and I will be passing it off to Martina to go into that a little bit more.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kelly. So as part of our design sprint, we talked to real teachers across the US and across the globe, including Colorado, California, and India. The teachers came from different teaching backgrounds and different tenures, including some teachers who have been teaching for just a couple of years, as well as teachers who have been teaching their entire lives. We heard many great stories about their experiences, including how they obtain student feedback and how they work to improve the classroom experience. One story we heard involved a professor who was used to obtaining student feedback at the end of the semester. He thought this was too late in the game for him. He wished students would come to him throughout the semester and share their feedback and concerns earlier in the process, and that he was able to obtain that feedback a lot more often. He also wished that asking for feedback involved a lot less effort and a lot less paperwork. This was an insight that was consistent across all teachers we talked to. Based on the individual interviews and feedback, we're able to identify key insights that would serve as a basis for building our solution. First, we learned that teachers we talked to wanted to understand more about what to do after the feedback has been obtained. Some said that getting feedback was great, but it often left them feeling overwhelming or helpless in terms of not knowing what to do and how to proceed next. Second, the teachers also wanted to know how their students are doing throughout the semester. They wanted to have a way to obtain feedback quickly and without too much effort. In addition, the teachers wanted to have access to both high-level and detailed feedback. High-level feedback would allow them to understand how their students are doing in general and act on it much faster. The detailed feedback would allow them to uncover additional insights where needed and as needed. Lastly, the teachers wanted to see specific feedback for various classes and topics. They wanted to be able to ask lesson-specific questions and understand how well the students understood the subject. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Jean, who will talk to you about how we incorporate user feedback into building our solution.
Thank you, Martina. So based on those user insights, we designed a solution with the following key features. The first is actionable insights. After teachers administer a survey, our product will provide clear and actionable insights based on the survey results that will help improve student experience. By summarizing key student needs, we eliminate the need for teachers to sift through a large volume of feedback, which would be especially helpful for teachers with large classroom sizes. Next, we have student sentiment. For each class, our product will provide an at-a-glance student sentiment chart that will allow teachers to see how much the class needs additional help or clarification on the course material. Another feature is detailed feedback. So while our product will summarize survey results through the actual insights I mentioned earlier, teachers will also be able to access all of the students' survey responses if they would like to derive further details. And lastly, there's customizable surveys, which means that teachers will be able to customize survey questions so that they can obtain information that is most relevant to the class or topic. So now we'll present to you a demo of our product to show how a teacher would interact with our app. Hi everyone, I'm going to show you a demo of our app, The Root. Let's log into the account of a professor at UCLA. You start, okay. This is the main page where all of the classes that the professor has created will be listed. Currently, there's only one class called CS31. We'll try creating a new class later, but first let's take a look at the CS31 class dashboard by clicking on the icon. This dashboard displays statistics based on the latest survey that the professor has created for the class. In the blue box are the top 3 suggested actions for the professor to take. Each of these suggestions were created based on survey results using the NLP model from Amazon Comprehend. Once the professor has completed the suggested action, they can check it off by clicking on the box. Below is the student sentiment chart, which displays how students felt about the class at the time of the latest survey. The chart shows that 75% of students mostly understood the content, while 25% only slightly understood it. Let's take a look at the specific survey that the dashboard is reflecting. When you click on View Past Surveys, you're brought to a page listing all of the different surveys that the professor has created. The latest survey was week 2. On this page, we can see the survey code, which the students will use in order to fill out the survey. Below that is a list of student feedback for each survey question. Clicking on the Send to Students button would send the survey link to every student in the class through an SMS message, and the Back to Lessons button will lead you back to the page listing all of the different surveys. So now that we've gone through the general layout of the app, let's try creating a new class and a new survey and see how student survey responses are analyzed in real time. So let's go back to home and create a class. Let's call it CS32. Change the colors a little bit. Okay, great. Now the class was added. When you click on the class, you should see that there's no information displayed yet because we haven't created a survey yet. So let's create one by clicking on Create New Survey. Let's call this one Week 1. Great, the survey has been created. Now let's see how a student will answer the survey by copying the code and then clicking on this link. The student is going to fill out the code and then answer the survey here. In order for the suggested actions portion from the dashboard to display meaningful answers, there needs to be at least a couple of different responses to the survey so that there's enough data for the model to analyze. So let's add another response. Cool, now let's go back to the survey page to make sure that our answers were recorded. Great, they're both there, so let's take a look at the class dashboard. Okay, now we can see that there are 2 new suggestions created based on our responses, and the student sentiment chart reflects our answers as well. So that's the end of the demo of our MVP.
We hope you enjoyed our demonstration. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of the features shown in the demo. One of the first pages you see when you enter the application is the course homepage, where you can see the different classes that you are teaching. As seen in the demo, the class colors are all customizable, making a personalized and colorful space to organize your classes. Thus, this page allows you to quickly and efficiently find feedback from a specific class. In the upper right, by clicking on the plus sign, you are able to add and delete classes to best fit your teaching needs. The navigation bar on the bottom of the screen allows you to get around the app to your surveys and gives you the ability to source real-time feedback easily all year long. Clicking on a specific class brings you to the class dashboard, where you will see the actionable insights built directly from feedback from your class's latest survey. This dashboard helps you focus on the real problems that students are facing by identifying the top 3 concepts that your students are struggling with. This dashboard is rewarding, since once you have taken care of the misunderstandings the students had, you can check off the suggested action, helping you keep track of your progress on addressing student pain points. The dashboard also gives you real-time analytics by summarizing the students' responses to the feelings question in a fun and colorful donut chart. This feature allows the teacher to quickly get an overview on how their students are feeling and gauge student progress, mastery of, and confidence in the course material. To get a more in-depth look at the pain points students are having with a particular lesson, you would be able to click on the specific suggested action. This brings up a new page focused solely on the area that students need assistance with. You can see the feedback related to that specific suggested action, as well as another chart with a measure of how many students understand this particular topic. Being able to see the unfiltered feedback of students helps teachers to connect further with them, something which is especially important during the COVID-19 pandemic, where teachers are often removed from their students and cannot have these important engagements with them. In order to alleviate some of the pressure on the teacher to assist their students, the supplemental media button would bring up a search of educational materials on the topic at hand. The teacher could send these materials out to the students in order to assist them with the topics they're having trouble with. Now that we have taken a closer look at the solution, I'll pass it off to Grace.
Thanks, Victor. Now for the solution feedback. So after we have developed our prototype, we conducted a round of user experience interviews to see different teachers' perspective regarding to our product. So Janae Harris, who belongs to a group of younger teachers, as being a social science teacher in middle school with 1 year experience, she claimed that with the root, she's better equipped to understand where her students were struggling. Salvatore Bizzarro, who serves as college teacher for over 40 years, is a more experienced senior teacher. And he expressed that with a rule that allows him to get feedback that he can action immediately. Anila Asmili, who has 3 years of teaching experience of science in India, is our representative of the overseas teachers. And she told us that the route will engage both the teachers and the students. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is our product architecture. Just as the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, so is our product. Different kinds of technologies and services are employed in building towards our final solution. For the front-end part, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are the tools we utilize for displaying and styling our web application. In order to visualize data in a clean and appealing way, we relied on the Chart.js library and the Jinja template. For the back-end segment, Flask, which is a Python micro web framework, serves as a tool for constructing the structure of our web application. In addition to that, AWS DynamoDB, which is a database, enables us to effectively store and process data. For the AI and machine learning algorithm part, Amazon Comprehend, which is a natural language processing service that uses machine learning to find insights and relationships in text, is a technology that we build upon to detect the key phrases and sentiments from students' feedback in order to generate useful lesson recommendations for the teachers. Passing over to Antonio.
Thanks, Grace. Now, in an effort of promoting market uniqueness, we wanted to know who was doing what and how. Thus, we identified 2 competitors that currently offer feedback and survey services. Pi Happiness and CrowdSignal both offer survey creation and analytic reporting to their customers. However, our product, The Root, solves for the lack of lesson-specific feedback and recommendations based on ML that our competitors lack. In doing so, we are positioned especially to cater to the core pain points of educators and to maximize the experience of students across the country. Next slide. Now, although we've submitted an MVP, we have confidence that our product can evolve to service more than just the K-12 population. This confidence empowered us to map out a 5-year trajectory that you're looking at right now. Now, in addition to adding new features such as a gamification reward system in year 2 and a messaging feature in year 3, we also intend to expand our customer demographic to include community colleges and universities in years 4 and 5, respectively. Currently, our MVP depends on Amazon Comprehend, as Grace mentioned, a pre-trained NLP model. But we hope to train our model with data received from surveys to develop an algorithm that is more tailored towards student input and will provide better suggestions for teachers. Next slide. Now, in the ideation phase, my group and I really came to the conclusion that all education in this country is not created equal. Therefore, our product success is measured in part by how accessible it is for students of all districts and all backgrounds. With this in mind, we intend to price our product at just $2 per student, far below market rate compared to other packages offered by ed tech companies. Our general affordability, coupled with our 5-year trajectory, as evidenced on the previous slide, inform our financial projections and situate us to return profit in about year 5. But if you'd like to understand our numbers with greater granularity, feel free to check out our appendix. But for now, Ram will introduce you to the risks.
Thank you, Antonio. As we've seen so far, our solution strives to improve teacher performance in ways that some of the current apps in this space don't. But we realized that our solution would meet with a few hiccups along the way that we're prepared to tackle. First, we understand that public schools may not have the requisite financial resources to pay for our solution if it's priced too high. To help address this concern, we priced our solution at only $2 per student, as mentioned earlier, as we believe it would help reach a wide number of schools and in fact impact more teachers and students. Next, we're aware that we may face potential breaches into our system with the threat of personally identifiable information leakages. While we believe we cannot eliminate such attacks, we can mitigate it as we establish protocols, develop training programs, and hire cybersecurity experts to ward off such breaches. Finally, realize that students in the younger age bracket would tend to abuse the anonymous feedback and chat features, and to prevent that, we only plan to launch these features for college and university students. Next slide, please. We genuinely believe that our app has the potential to transform the way students and teachers interact with each other and ultimately reform the student learning experience. And if we look at the potential market for our product, it turns out to be huge, as the latest breakthroughs such as AR/VR, gamification, online learning, and AI augment its growth over the next few years. Having said that, we plan to start small. We capture just $5 million of this market and then go from there. Ultimately, we know that if we are able to expand our product reach one teacher at a time, we'd be moving towards a redefined learning experience for both teachers and students. Finally, we'd like to thank everyone involved in the YTP program for such a great opportunity. The past 7 weeks has been an amazing experience for all of us, and we cannot cherish it more. Thank you.
Thank you, team. That was a great presentation. Thank you, Cruising for Bruin. Now we're going to have 10 minutes for the judges to ask questions. So judges, please feel free to ask questions for 10 minutes.
Great.
Go
ahead.
Okay, I just have a quick question just to make sure I understood the app a little more. Will the students get to see all the input, or is it limited to the student and the teacher's input and the analytics that go with all the input?
The input would only be shown to the teacher, who will use those information to better the classroom. The students would only fill out surveys anonymously, and that would be all they would have to do, which would create less work and less of a burden for students who already have a lot of work to do in their free time.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. I may ask a question. Hi guys, my name is Jade. I'm with Box. Great presentation. Super impressed by what you guys were able to do in such a short period of time. So one question for you: who is your competition? Is there a product out there that is comparable or competitive? And how do you feel about it? What makes you better? I guess that was 2 questions.
Sure. So currently we captured, or we identified rather, companies that have survey platforms. In our exploration of competitors in the ed tech space, we came up with Class Dojo, which is one potential competitor. And we also found, I believe, if another group member wants to help me out here, there was one other competitor that we found. However, they just were not doing what we were doing. And they were less concerned about integrating, I believe it's Kahoot, sorry, there you go, Kahoot. But they had different platforms and different goals. And our product's main, I guess, attempt and problem that we're trying to solve ultimately is having teachers have access to pain points that students face, and other products had other platforms and other pain points that they were trying to solve for. So we didn't find one that was, I'd say, comparable in the sense of survey feedback, but there are other ed tech companies out there that we are somewhat in line with.
Thank you.
So this is Jim. I'd like to ask, how did you think about, or how did you deal with different kinds of concepts, in the class? So it's David Smallbird's class on computer science is one thing. What about a philosophy class or a history class where the concepts are of a different nature and require a different kind of understanding? How do you deal with that?
I can speak a little bit about that. So right now our algorithm to produce an MVP, we decided to get the simplest algorithm that works, and that was by using Amazon Comprehend. And how that works is that we identify Amazon Comprehend can identify key phrases in text, which comes from the student feedback, and it works well across all sorts of subjects: philosophy, history, computer science. It can identify key phrases in sentences. Our hope is that as we develop our product, we also realize that student feedback is complicated. It's not always grammatically correct, linear. As in addition to what you said, different subjects have sort of different ways that you ask questions versus computer science versus philosophy, as you mentioned. And that's why we hope to train our model on specific student feedback. That way we can better give suggestions.
Just a very quick follow-up. That's where I thought you might go. That means you have to have a database of expressions under different circumstances. How do you know when you have enough data to have a legitimate response?
I guess I can touch on this a little bit more because I helped with the development of the NLP model more. I believe that in terms of obtaining data for it, we definitely would want to start small. And that's the reason I think Antonil spoke on this more with our 5-year model, why we hope to start with K through 12 schools and then expand further into colleges. I believe that in the K through 12 sector, a lot of those subjects are a little bit more standardized. You kind of have a better idea of the types of topics, phrases, overall ideas that you can train on. And so that's the reason that by giving us this like around 1 to 3 year cushion to begin developing this application and develop a more robust, specific, accurate algorithm that would then be a little bit better suited to then make better predictions when it expands to like a college setting. And we would then need to talk about more like nebulous, confusing concepts like philosophy or like poli-sci or like political theory or something like that.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, that's actually a good discussion you're bringing up. I appreciate it.
May I ask I was going to say, may I ask another question? I don't want to take too much time. From a pricing perspective, you mentioned $2, and you mentioned that as your base price. How are you looking to scale when you get to post K-12 to bigger universities? Would you be able to reduce that? And my quick follow up to that, what are the companies or partners that you need out there to scale quickly?
I believe you cut out towards the very end, at least for me. Can you repeat the last question?
Get it. I wanted to know, what are the partners and in the ecosystem that you're tapping into that you feel would be helpful for you to grow quickly? So for example, at Box, Salesforce is one of our biggest partners and just provides us with a very wide network of other consumers that we can get. So just curious to see if you've thought of the partnerships that would be helpful to you to grow.
Yeah, I can touch on the partnerships bit. So one of the key services that we'd be transitioning to, especially in years 3 and 4, would be AWS, which would kind of serve as the basic infrastructure for all of the analytics and everything that goes on the back end. So I think that's one of the key partners that we're looking at and would really kind of help us scale to a larger demographic.
That's great.
I have a question. I think it's for Martina and Grace. How did you identify your teacher interviewees? And can you talk a little bit about how you interacted with them? Did you give them surveys or did you interview them?
I can jump in. Yes, so actually, staying kind of true to the design thinking methodology and true human-centered design, we actually went out there, so to speak, virtually to connect with real users who we're designing for, which in this case is teachers. Some of us were lucky to kind of already have connections and kind of relationships with teachers. We have teachers in our families, also have close relationship with the teachers. We're also lucky to be students at a great institution that is UCLA, so we kind of have access to professors and teachers. So actually we're able to talk to real users, both as part of the research, as we kind of started to explore this space, came with a hypothesis of what we think the solution may be, and obviously I iterated a lot as part of both kind of the initial research to design, to direct our solution design and kind of take this direction, as well as after developing a high fidelity prototype, actually going back with it to the users and asking them for additional feedback to kind of keep iterating and really keep targeting the things that the user was looking for.
So you gave it to them to play with?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I had a question, actually 2 questions. First, how did you choose the name, the root? And then second, wanted to learn a little bit more about the supplemental media button and what content does that actually link to and where is that sourced?
Sure. So I can touch on the actual name. I think that we kept on talking about, and we really wanted to center teachers. And so we said, okay, teachers have problems. Teachers have problems. How are we jumping in? How are we solving for said problems? And so we thought of the root because we're helping teachers get to the root of their problems, which is student misunderstanding or student confusion. So it was very organic in that way. And then I'll pass it off to someone else to answer the second question. So the supplemental media button, it would primarily source information from the education sphere of the internet. And there are lots of resources there, one of them being Khan Academy. I know that a lot of teachers in K through 12 use that as a resource for their kids to learn when they don't get to specific topics in class. And that would be a really great resource if you could connect one of those videos or articles to that actionable insight or to the topic that students are struggling with. It would be a great resource for students.
If we have time, I'd like to ask a question as well. So thank you. This was great. I really enjoyed your presentation. Could you please elaborate on your considerations for security and privacy? As you know, that's top of mind for a lot of us these days. I know you touched on it, but didn't speak much about when you would be addressing the needs and how you would bring awareness to the platform as it pertains to security and privacy.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I think one of the key issues we did realize was the issue of PII kind of leaking out, and we are taking that really seriously. So I think from year one itself, we'd be hiring like a cybersecurity engineer in our team, would be kind of working part-time, and as we kind of keep growing, I think we would kind of bring in some more engineers as well who would kind of be supporting some of the underlying infrastructure. In addition to that, we would also be like holding some of the employee training programs. So I think that is some of the additional costs that we've kind of factored in as our miscellaneous expenses, and that would kind of be another way in which we would kind of educate some of our employees to be careful with some of the potential threats and leakages that might occur. And we're aware that cybersecurity is a pretty huge concern, and like we know, like some of the big tech companies are facing issues as well. So I think this is something that we would constantly be working towards and help trying to mitigate as we expand from years 1 through 5.
Okay, we're out of time for questions, so we're going to move on to let's see, is Beauty and the Bays, are you ready? Beauty and the Bays?
Warren, are you ready?
Yep.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, all right, let's go.
Just 1 second, need to give Tina access and turn this on. Tina, just get the cursor going if you're good.
Yep, I got it.
Cool, perfect.
Okay, I'll just get started. I just hope the judges are ready as well.
Yes, we're good to go.
Okay, perfect. So everyone has been in this situation. You're stuck in traffic. You expected the traffic in Los Angeles on the way to work, but it always seems to surprise you out of nowhere. Ultimately, this is how you feel as you inch your car forward less than 1 mile an hour, and the glaring sun is not helping at all. We are Commutity, and we have a solution that allows employers to reduce commute times for their employees. We welcome you to our Commutity, to the new way to leverage work from home schedules to minimize traffic. So this is our team. We range from we come from diverse backgrounds. Two of our team members are actually globally positioned, Richa and Tanvi. So we did have to work around that, but we didn't let that set us back. And despite this being some of our very first times applying machine learning concepts, we tried our best to coordinate and learn and split tasks accordingly. So we are definitely proud to show you our end product. So now delving deeper into this commute problem. CNBC actually noted that over 35% of residents of Palmdale, a city in the LA County, had a commute consisting of over an hour in each direction. So now let that sink in. More time commuting means less time for work and personal lives. 23% of workers have quit a job due to bad commutes. A study by the USC Keck School of Medicine found that longer commutes correlated to psychological health problems like depression and obesity. And finally, in respect to the current situation we're in, COVID-19 has transformed remote work, and there aren't any existing technologies that can essentially and ideally coordinate work from home schedules. So now passing it on to you, Karishma.
Thank you, Tina. As the previous slide mentioned, the economic ramifications of traffic congestion are colossal. With the cost of living in Los Angeles already being so high, hitting costs from your daily commute are the last thing that anyone wants to deal with. Next slide, please. Los Angeles is a busy metropolitan area that greatly suffers from traffic, with about 4 million people who live and work in the county. There is also plenty of traffic out of LA, since over 300,000 residents of LA County commute out to their workplace. About 150,000 residents of Los Angeles have over a 90-minute commute in each direction. This means that more than 3% of commuters who live in LA drive more than 3 hours every single day to work. Moreover, there's almost 500,000 people commuting into Los Angeles from nearby counties. Next slide, please. Quoting Dr. Zhu from UCLA's Department of Environmental Health Sciences, our future air quality could be decided by how we end up getting back to work. Zhu's team also found a 40% drop in levels of PM 2.5, a class of microscopic air pollutants that have been linked to serious cardiovascular and respiratory problems, especially in children and the elderly. Currently, researchers are discovering that there is a correlation between exposure to PM 2.5 and an increased risk in death from COVID-19. PM 2.5 ends up in our airs from many sources, but ultimately the biggest contributor in Southern California is from vehicular traffic. Beyond this, traffic also relates to crime rates present in Los Angeles County. According to LAPD data, from March 1st to July 31st, there were 33.5 fewer incidents of road rage, with 180 reports, down from 271 in the same timeframe of last year. Next slide, please. As you can see in the diagram, the map shows the statistics from November 28th of 2020 traffic congestion in contrast to that of the year prior. As we hopefully approach the end of COVID-19 in the new year, this largely ubiquitous decrease in traffic congestion will start to revert. With the new culture of work from home habits that we see arising in the corporate sphere, we hope to leverage this momentum in order to maintain quicker commute times. The solution is simple: community. Off to you, Warren.
Thank you, Karishma. Let me just go. Okay. Community is a solution that will minimize commute times by coordinating when people work from home. I want to give a quick example of how coordinating with technology helps everybody. The global positioning system, which you all know as GPS, made modern navigation possible. Some call GPS the world's first and only free global public utility. GPS is managed by the United States and cost about $12 billion for the initial constellation of satellites, and cost about $1.7 billion a year annually to maintain. However, the benefits to the United States alone last year, $1.4 trillion. The GPS equivalent for traffic is the Regional Integrated Transportation Information System, otherwise known as RITIS. This is historic from a variety of sources. They have government inputs such as traffic sensors and freeway cameras, plus private sources such as Waze user data. RITIS centralizes traffic data into a usable format that can be used by companies to build products such as Community, or that data is used by municipalities to make decisions such as where and when to build a bridge. Our solution creates a unique product by taking two sources of traffic data and analyzing them to create value. One source would be RIDIS or third-party traffic data, but the other source, which is key, is the work from home schedules that enterprises would deliver. And then using AI and machine learning, we'd analyze this data and community would be able to predict where the traffic is going to be and when. That predicted traffic would be analyzed further to create an optimized work from home schedule that enterprises can use to plan their work from home schedule. If enough people follow the work from home, we will not only be on the roads and thus reduce traffic. Next up is Richard, who's going to talk about how we made this solution.
Thank you, Warren. Now on to our data. So we leveraged a West Hollywood traffic dataset to help build our platform and demonstrate our capabilities. We used machine learning to categorize traffic counter locations into groups based on their efficiency scores. The efficiency score serves as a metric to determine where and when traffic is or isn't as congested. Insight about how our traffic is behaving allows us to optimize suggested schedules and routes for the vehicles in the Los Angeles area. We started with the West Hollywood data and hope to build up to RIDIS. Next slide, please. As more data is collected, the grouping is always adjusting to reflect modern patterns and work appropriately. K-means clustering enables us to sort into groups based on congestion. We take into consideration the type of area, like residential or commercial, speed limits, and more. Our groups are paired with geographic coordinates, which allow for mapping the areas of interest. There is a focus on efficiencies rather than raw traffic count. Efficiency is less reliant on physical traffic counters, which is convenient for our data collection. Efficiency does not aim to totally reroute traffic, but rather optimize it. Now on to Tanvi.
Thanks, Richard. So to use the results from our K-means clustering effectively, we decided to keep it simple and chose 3 location pairs to work off. Each pair had at least one location from our original West Hollywood dataset. These locations are just sample data, so we wouldn't be violating any compliance rules. We'd use an approximate range rather than specific locations like the ones you see. But again, just for the sake of simplicity, we have chosen specific values as of now. We curated data from Google Maps and recorded the maximum travel times for each working day over the duration of 2 weeks. We decided to collect it on an hourly basis, again, for the sake of simplicity. We used data from 1 week as our training data set and the other as testing, which we would be using to make predictions. For the training data, we used R to collect the projected times using the scaling factors from our K-means clusters. We assumed employees would be working in the office 3 days out of 5. We performed bagging on a split of this training data and made predictions on the remaining training data. We got a low error rate, which gave us the indication that the model was working well, and thus used it to make predictions using our test data. A little more about bagging, which is our machine learning method, is on the next slide. Bagging averages the predictions from various decision trees over a collection of bootstrap samples. And bootstrap samples are data points that are uniformly sampled with replacement from our training data, just to create some randomization. And what are decision trees? They're a set of instructions that the model follows in order to determine the prediction value. There's simply a way for our model to decide how to predict based on cutoff values for our different variables. Bagging fits several decision trees and averages these samples, and thus we get our prediction. Averaging these samples helps combat variance, as we want the prediction to be as close to a real value. A limitation that we found is that each observation goes through a black box, so it's not very interpretable how the final values arrived at. However, we felt that this is an extensive method enough using all our variables, such as the day, time of departure, distance, and more. As our data set becomes larger and we move towards a solution like RIDIS, our bagging iterations will increase and we can get more accurate predictions. Now onto the demo to see how we used our algorithm.
It allows you to travel at the best time to maximize your time, be more productive, and ultimately have a quick and clean commute.
To use Community,
Simply select from the drop-down menu your starting location, then select your work location. Community will automatically calculate the projected time of travel in minutes based on our unique algorithm and recommend you the top 3 ideal days and times to travel. You can also conveniently deselect the days which you could not work. And Community will automatically recommend the next top 3 ideal days and times to travel. Hovering over a box will also display the high, which represents the highest commute time possible to reach your intended destination, and the projected, which represents your commute time after using Community. You now know exactly when to travel at the best ideal times and days. You can easily create a work schedule without the hassle of long commutes.
Thank you for the demo. Over to you, Richa.
Thank you, Tanvi. I'm going to talk about the community's place and market. While developing our business solution, we decided to compare our service to fleet management services as opposed to Google or Apple Map. Consider the analogy that each enterprise that we're serving has a fleet of employees that has to be managed. This is why we have considered TomTom and Route4Me, which provide suggested routes for each of their delivery trucks to take in order to optimize their delivery time based on historic data. Community also takes the help of historic data to make predictions, but we do not suggest routes. Since the employees only need to get from point A to point B, we trust that our users will take the help of services such as Google Maps to decide the best route possible. Where we come in is that we utilize the work from home data, which suggests the days and time to travel based on external data set provided to us by the enterprises using our services. In short, we are not going to suggest which route to take to work. Instead, we are recommending when not to go to work and when to go to work. Next slide, please. When it comes to our unique value proposition, Community is a tool which facilitates traffic coordination by ethically and legally acquiring data from enterprises and working with historic data to make predictions. The benefits of our solutions include increased productivity of white-collar employees, which leads to an increase in profit for the firm, improved work-life balance for employees, which comes from spending less time commuting, and increase in sustainability through improved air quality. Next slide, please. After studying the LA market, we learned that the city of LA employs more than 50,000 people. It is one of the largest employers in the LA County and is always looking for green initiatives. Using 2019 data, we know that there are almost 1,500 companies in the LA County that employ more than 250 people. That is over 1 million people in the LA County itself. Next slide. Upon speaking with Dr. Sean Young from the UCLA Institute of Prediction Technologies, we learned that the city of LA had approached him regarding a similar problem. And so our go-to-market plan is to initially launch in the city of LA while focusing on large enterprises and the LA city offices. We are looking to these large employers as our early adopters since they will benefit the most. With the success in Los Angeles, we further plan to expand and replicate results in the cities of San Francisco and Seattle that employ 30,000 and 10,000 people respectively. Now I'll pass it on to Daniel.
Thank you, Richa. So I'm going to be talking about our marketing plans. To earn trust, we plan to develop an online presence and generate articles and white papers on our findings in traffic. This shows we are a leader in this industry and establishes our domain knowledge. Next, to get our early adopters, we will leverage our networks and reach out personally to leadership at large companies through email and LinkedIn. Moreover, we are looking to work with the City of LA not only as a client, but also as a partner. We are looking to develop initiatives for companies to leverage our platform to improve the environment and safety in Los Angeles. Finally, we plan to use LinkedIn and Facebook ads, as these are the platforms that our working age professionals are the most likely to use. Companies like Salesforce and Tableau leverage these social medias to advertise, and we want to follow suit. Furthermore, we found that Facebook and LinkedIn offer a diverse toolset specifically for B2B advertising. Next slide. So we went over who our users are, but our customers can be different people. For our business model options, I want to talk about who our customers are going to be. Users are going to get their assisted schedules for free, but the data they provide will be very unique and a valuable data set that we want to leverage and sell to our customers. Various customers need data-driven demand forecasts for their specific needs. For example, a city planner may need to decide bus routes based on where people are commuting to and from. City planners, trucking and delivery services, office developers, property managers, and even private equity and investment banking firms would all find this data valuable. Finally, for market size, the global location intelligence market was valued at $10.6 billion in 2019 and is expected to grow to over $25.2 billion by 2027. Next slide. For community to have an impact, we need our product to be adopted and supported by the key decision makers. Our goal is to establish credibility as a trusted provider for location and transportation data services. We will be looking to work with government and educational institutions such as LA County and other institutes working on predictive analytics. We already have received initial positive feedback from professionals in predictive technologies. Now I'm going to be passing it on to Tanvi.
Thanks, Daniel. Our algorithm determines on which days to commute based on how long it takes to travel. Choosing the least amount of time it takes to travel on a particular day results in a reduction in traffic. Therefore, based on our algorithm and predictive analysis, we expect on average a 27.5% reduction in traffic. This reduction in traffic has a positive impact not only on drivers' frustration levels, but also on the environment. Next slide, please. Vehicle carbon dioxide emissions could be reduced by 7 to 12% through congestion mitigation strategies, speed management, and traffic flow smoothing, according to a UC Riverside study. Even if traffic does not rise back to its pre-pandemic levels, there are still opportunities to reduce traffic, and we can do that using our product. Ultimately, our solution is not simply about traffic, but rather reducing traffic as a means to achieve cleaner air. Shorter commute times equate to less fuel consumption, thus a lower carbon footprint. With the mass adoption of our platform that we are projecting to see throughout Los Angeles County and hopefully other major cities over time, we can work towards a greener tomorrow, 1 mile at a time. Next slide, please. Now, with community in your life, you're traveling to work when there's basically no traffic at all. You're no longer this person in traffic. Rather, you're this person.
We'd like to thank all the teams who worked hard on their products for the Young Tech. We know that coordinating schedules for people all over the world, and this has been a great experience. Also want to thank Rafi and his admin team for putting this all together. And thank you, of course, to the judges for sharing your time and insights with us this evening. If anyone would like to demo Community, feel free to use the bit.ly link at the bottom of the slide. And with that, we are open for questions.
Thank you, team. That was a great presentation. Thank you. Judges, we have 10 minutes for questions.
Yeah, hey guys, great concept. I can definitely use this. I used to commute to Malibu from Hollywood, so about 2 hours each way. So definitely needed. 2 thoughts here. My first thought, you talked a lot about enterprise, and one thing that I didn't hear you guys talk about in terms of your potential customers are free users. Like, what are your thoughts on having a freemium model? And the second question would be, what about integrating within existing calendar solutions?
The model is free for users because we wouldn't expect people to pay for optimized work from home schedule, because having a two-sided marketplace, it's always gonna be difficult to get those, enough people to actually make it useful, and then of course people to actually use it. So it's free for everybody to input their schedules and then get a optimized schedule back. The calendar connection would be obviously a huge benefit. We hope that there'd be some sort of integration of the actual part of getting the data from enterprises is sort of the next step in our journey.
Got it. So when you're saying it's the next step, has in, because when I looked at the one thing that I really liked is the fact that you could see it in the calendar. What about integrating it directly into like what most people use, which would be like a GCal versus thinking of it from an enterprise perspective? And when you do that, a question that I believe either Lucy or Leah asked the last team, how do you protect the information? How do you protect the actual data of your customer in the enterprise?
The privacy question comes up quite a bit, and that's totally a fair point to make. To answer your question about the calendar integration, we would love that, of course. You know, if the city of LA, which makes the most sense, is sort of a first partner because they have so many employees, they have very strict schedules as well. If they were able to give us their schedules in an anonymized way, and we were able to take that, that'd be fantastic. The actual data of the traffic data industry in general is very, very good at anonymizing who's what data point. And for us to take it even further, even though in our demo it shows addresses, we'd really have it saying, okay, someone coming from area A, and try to make it anonymous as possible. Definitely a huge concern.
Thank you.
I have a question. How, I may have missed it, but how are you measuring the benefits? And, you know, the fact that someone takes this route when they're advised to do so, are you actually able to measure the length of time it actually was, continue to feed your model, but also feed back to, say, LA, that you save this much time, therefore you save this much, you know, carbon footprint, whatever you want to use?
Oh, someone on the team I don't want to be the only question answerer.
Carbon footprint is actually quite challenging to measure directly just because each vehicle has different systems, and especially now with like the new technology that we have for greener electricity kind of cars with the hybrid models, that's something that we can't necessarily determine right away. That's something that'd be, you know, in another iteration of our product. However, that is something that we would love to integrate. We do really care about the environmental component. This is a social impact project at the end of the day. And it's not directly about traffic, it's about how we can use traffic to really benefit the environment. But as I said, you know, this is an MVP, right? This is our first, you know, go at it. So it would take us a little bit more time to develop the resources to really get an accurate measure of the environmental benefit in that sense. But for now, we're sticking to the traffic benefits as that's what we were actually able to compute for the purposes of this product and demo.
So you will compute the time it takes for the actual commute versus the predicted commute.
Precisely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much.
As a follow-up to that question too, have you looked at how this is going to be monetized, and what would be the financial analysis in terms of the return on investments and potential break-even points for the investments that you're going to put in there for the product development?
The financial side of this project, to be totally honest, we didn't dig into very far. The interesting thing that we found was how many different companies use traffic data that you wouldn't necessarily imagine. Like there's private equity firms that use this to measure how well their investments are doing if they own, like, say, property in certain areas, and measure demand. So the actual, like Daniel had touched on, the data set of just having work from home data and just building a large enough data set on really quality traffic analysis, we feel has value. And this is probably the only place that you could possibly get it, because we're pulling it in from value to people giving it sense. Like people are willing to give us their work from home schedules, willing to give us their commute paths in order to get a value of knowing when to commute. And that data set alone has value. How much data, I mean, how much it would sell for, how much the whole company would cost to take off, how much VC investing capital, we didn't quite go there in this project.
Okay.
So I had a question. In terms of like the reduction in traffic, prediction, and result, like what level of, was that overall or just for the people who are using this this tool? And if it is just for the people using this tool, like what assumption, I guess the question is, another question would be, if everybody used this tool and picked the optimized times to commute, wouldn't that change the traffic patterns? And so how would you have that real-time or that feedback loop put in so that it would adapt over time based on more use and people going at more efficient times?
Yeah, so this primarily does like go for like people working in offices, and one like major principle that is like looking to be adopted, like, you know, once the pandemic is over, is a lot of people want to have like 3-day in-person work schedules. So at first, this is primarily going to be yes, again, for like office workers, but with like the traffic counters are always like in real time and updating themselves. So we want to learn to continually be modifying our projections for the behavior of traffic, like as it's ongoing. It's always updating. It's not just going to be stagnant.
I can add on to this. We use data from Google Maps, which and we hope to use other inputs like Critis or Waze. So as those continually update, we hope to update along with that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about Waze. I mean, do you see that? It sounds like you see that as a potential collaboration or have an API into it versus a competitor. And do you see that, you know, the first thing I thought about when you were presenting on this was, well, I can do a lot of that with Waze. Now it probably takes a little more effort, but, you know, so how would you market to me the differentiation between community and Waze?
I would give you a fun fact about Waze is that they are very, very pro sharing their data with cities and their community platform, and they actually work with what research the Office of Predictive Analytics here at UCLA. And so the difference between community and Waze is Waze is really going to be sort of a one-to-one person. And if, for example, let's pretend that there's one person or scheduling the work from home schedules for an entire department in Los Angeles, and all of them are coming from all different spots of the city, and they're all ending up in downtown. That person has to make a decision on what days to work from home and what days not to. Obviously, that person can't really use Waze the same way an individual could. Like, for example, you could use Waze to decide, like, you know, when should I drive to San Diego as an individual, but you can't really use Waze to say, when should we have all the employees come to the office? And part of the initial idea is that, like, Los Angeles has always had terrible traffic, and with work from home schedules, potentially everybody's going to try to take Friday off, and that's going to create on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So this is sort of a tool preemptively before the pandemic ends to give people that power and option to coordinate so that we can smooth the traffic and have, you know, a balance on the freeways so that the commutes aren't just, you know, terrible on Tuesday, terrible on Wednesday, terrible on Thursday, but a little bit more optimized for all the different days. And that's something that Waze can't do in its current form.
Thank you. That's really a great answer and a great differentiation that, you know, that I think companies would see a greater benefit the way you just described it.
This is Jim. I have it's a follow-up question to the one that was previously asked and a little bit to what the other Jim just asked. Kind of down a technical bent here a little bit, but it's actually really quite difficult to predict from clusters. And I wondered how you set up some of the reference points, or how you're thinking about doing the reference points, because you have some opportunity with clusters during COVID, you have some opportunity with clusters pre-COVID. Maybe you can play some what if sorts of scenarios, but fundamentally you have to be able to see how a cluster would shift if different populations make decisions. Otherwise you can't predict very well off a cluster from just an existing situation. So I wondered how you thought about perturbing the system so that you could see directions on clusters, just to at least get this started. That goes back to that feedback loop question earlier.
Right. So currently, the actual locations of the clusters at this moment are traffic counters that already had like data existing from them in West Hollywood. And so, yeah, of course, we would want those clusters have, you know, we want them to be relative to like time and date and those would always be, changing. So if we're keeping track of them over time, we hope to gain insights that way.
Thank you. Yes, very, very interesting application though.
Thank you, judges. We're going to have to move on to the next team. So next team is Control Z. Let me remove the spotlights. Control Z, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let me know when you're ready to, so I can start the timer.
Okay. Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. We're Control Z, and today we'll be talking about an aspect of homelessness that we want to solve with our product UpData. So as many people might already know, homelessness is a problem that has continued to grow in Los Angeles over the past few years. Many organizations try to alleviate the symptoms of homelessness through services such as creating homeless packs or giving food. But ultimately, the solution to homelessness is to find people homes. We wanted to create a solution that would make an impact in this process of finding people homes. The current process for housing the homeless in LA is based off of a county-wide scoring system from the Coordinated Entry System Survey called the YTP, which is about 20 pages long. The CES is a centralized system for organizations across the county that allows different service organizations to view information on anyone who has been entered into the system. Organizations use the CES survey to calculate what they call an acuity score, which indicates how vulnerable they are. The clients with higher acuity scores will have a better chance for receiving housing. Many of the nonprofits in LA are subject to the CES score, as the county designates who can get housing based on their score. This makes the VI-SPDAT one of the most important tools in the industry. However, case managers want to spend most of their time interacting with their clients and building the relationships to foster more trust and better serve their clients. Data entry is time consuming, especially when there are 20 pages to fill out per client, and case managers would rather spend their time directly serving their clients. Many of the organizations we have talked to have stated that they value trust with their clients over efficiency, but this leads to longer times doing administrative work. As one case manager from Safe Place for Youth described, 2 of the 5 days of the week in their organization are spent on administrative work, which includes inputting survey data and reaching out to clients who have yet to fill the survey. Typically, they have 5 to 10 new clients a week, which means over 100 pages to input every week. In order to understand the problem on a deeper level, we interviewed 8 different organizations about their process for new client intake. And while the CES system itself is very useful, a common complaint we've heard is that the amount of time it takes to enter this survey into the system. Many service organizations have stated that they use physical copies of the survey in the field in order to foster this greater sense of trust and compassion, as opposed to bringing a tablet or laptop out in the streets. This means they have to fill out the survey twice, once by hand and once on the computer, meaning 40 pages total per client. And as Danielle from the People Concerned said, it's definitely a huge complaint that everyone has. You have to record it on paper and you have to record it on the computer. And some of the other organizations have similar complaints, and all of them have emphasized that it is a repetitive and time-consuming process. Emily from Safe Place for Youth mentions that it takes time to fill out the survey because of the comprehensive questions. And Stephanie from St. Joseph Center says that it is tedious and repetitive work. And now I'll pass it off to Bonnie.
Yeah, so now that we've identified the problem we want to tackle, let's take a look at existing solutions that are currently on the market. So the first would be online forms like Google Forms or Jot Forms, where caseworkers can directly input information. However, as mentioned before, many service organizations have stated that they use physical copies of the survey in the field in order to create a greater sense of trust and compassion, as opposed to bringing a laptop or tablet out in the streets. So using these online forms would compromise relationship building and therefore do not solve our problem. So now what we want to do is find a way to move the information written on the physical form to the caseworker systems without the long and tedious data entry process. Generic document scanning, text recognition OCR apps exist, but after testing some of them out and also through our interviews, we realized that they weren't specific enough to our industry and weren't able to record the information we needed. So based on our research and interviews, we've determined that there are no direct competitions currently on the market for our solution.
So you're probably thinking, how do we intend to solve it? So our product, UpData, is an AI-based text recognition tool that helps case managers automate data entries. So UpData utilizes machine learning optical character recognition, known as OCR, to make the scoring process more time and work efficient for caseworkers. So using the same standard C as handwritten forms that they're currently using, our product automatically detects client information and creates an HMIS compatible import file. So this will allow case managers to still use the same system that they're familiar with to continue to understand how high risk a client is at becoming homeless, but the whole process will be less time consuming. Some benefits. So what makes our product unique is that it's tailored to industry specific tools to optimize the results and provide the solutions. With our product, case managers can free up more time to work with clients in person to build that intimate relationship and trust, and less time spent on inputting data into a computer. And now Ishan will give you a quick demonstration.
Thank you, Zoe. Rosa, would you? Thank you. So I'll just share my screen for the product demonstration. So what we'll be scanning here is the sample form. This is the first page of the Coordinated Entry Systems Individual Intake Survey. This is the most common survey that is used in LA County across the industry, and this is used most frequently. This form is perfectly standardized. It's the same 20-page form we mentioned earlier. All organizations will use this to intake people into their systems and finally into the coordinated entry system. This particular form is based on beloved headmaster of Hogwarts, Dumbledore, but some of these fields are randomized to ensure that for testing purposes, all of the full range of possible responses is captured. So to scan this form, we just open our UpData demo application. Now we just need to select the location of the form, which for me here is in this demo samples folder. It's the only file in this folder, which may become relevant later. And now we just hit the process button. So what's happening here is that the form is being sent through this pipeline on Microsoft's Azure service. In particular, it's being run through the form recognizer service, which is returning us information extracted from this form, where we then do a lot of processing locally on the system. What's really important here is that we're not storing any information on any servers of our own. The information passes temporarily through Azure, following all of Azure's own security protocols, and is then returned to the system. So this is what we get back. You can see that all of the information has been extracted from the form. This does flag any information that could not be extracted, or information that is required and not filled in, or even information where the form recognizer service was not able to ascertain with sufficiently high confidence what the data was. So we can see that the assessment type is missing over here, and we cannot export before all of the required information is filled out. We just select the assessment type, and now we are able to export the data. So now what this does is it creates a CSV file in the same folder as the form. Opening the CSV file, we can see that all of the information from the form has been extracted and is stored. This format follows the standardized format that homeless management information systems require for import and export. So in fact, there's nothing particularly about LA County or about our solution that makes it specific to LA County. Coordinated entry systems in different parts of the country, such as Santa Barbara or even other states, can use exactly the same kind of solution with very minimal tailoring. So what that means for our product is that it's fully generalizable. We, of course, plan to launch in LA County, but we are by no means limited to operating here. Now, there's a lot of scope for improvement here as well. Note that this model is only trained on 6 forms. So the one thing we can integrate into our model is that whenever this information is run through our pipeline, we will extract or we will anonymize this information and extract everything else. So with this form, for example, we might remove the social security numbers, name, and such, and use the rest of the information to train our model and improve it. We also want to emphasize that the API we're using, Microsoft's Azure service, is quite new. In fact, their ability to scan checkboxes was only made available a few weeks ago. It's currently in beta. So we expect this recognition to become a lot more accurate in the future. With these two improvements combined, and we expect these to happen organically over time, we want to emphasize that not only is this a really important tool for reducing the amount of time people, or in particular caseworkers, are spending importing this information into the system, but also potentially improving its accuracy. We have built into this solution the logic of how the form is supposed to work. The system recognizes which fields are required, which fields you need to fill in if certain other fields are filled in, and all of that is integrated into the solution. So I will stop sharing and request Rosa to continue sharing the presentation. Thanks, Rosa. So here we can see what our product, the shape our product might take when integrated into a homeless information management system, such as the BitFocus Clarity system that is used in Los Angeles. The demo we just did is a desktop application, and part of the reason it's a desktop app is for security purposes. We did not want to host our solution online, or we did not want to create a solution where there might be concerns about security and privacy. However, the ideal form of a solution would be to integrate with homeless management information systems, such as BitFocus Clarity. You can see here that theoretically, people would be able to upload their scanned documents into the system, where our software would then extract the relevant features in the exact same way that I showed earlier. And that would basically allow clients to skip this extra hoop of having the CSV file that they then need to import into their online database management system. I'll now hand it off to Zoe.
Thank you, Ishan. So we do expect our product to grow in the next few years. So during the first year, we hope to incorporate comparison tools to easily update clients' acuity score. So one pain point that we discovered from interviewing organizations and case manager is that whenever they have to update a client's acuity score, they have to redo a new survey. The same 20 pages they have to fill out, as well as another form called a triage tool. So it's a form that documents the changes between the old and new survey and an explanation of why those changes were made. So case managers do have to do those manually, so it's a lot more work for them. We plan on adding a feature that compares the two different surveys automatically and fill out the triage tool based on the changes made. In the second year, we want to build compatibility with other forms that the industry uses to assist clients. So this can continue to save time for case managers in different areas of their work. In the third year, we hope to incorporate predictive model for the acuity score calculation. So by incorporating a predictive model, the score could more accurately take in a client's personal history and background and evaluate how vulnerable they are at becoming homeless. So this feature can be more efficiently to guide case managers to help clients in their time of need. So the fourth year, we hope to integrate with other agencies' databases. So another complaint that we heard frequently from service organizations is that they have to enter the same data across different government databases when assisting a client, such as the Department of Mental Health and Department of Veterans Affairs. So we plan on addressing this by integrating agencies' databases to allow caseworkers to enter data just one single time, which would then in turn give them access to important files necessary from those other government departments. In the fifth year, we hope to develop our AI model in-house.
Our focus is to assist case managers at homeless organizations to improve the efficiency of their workflow by streamlining the data entry process. So case managers are the bridge between the homeless and homes. So our goal is to help them reduce time spent on administrative work so that they can focus more of their time on serving their clients and placing them to housing solutions. We've identified 5 core customer segments, which we think would, 1, benefit from our product, and 2, have valid use cases for our product. These include the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which provides rural housing, state and local governments, and private and nonprofit organizations. Within these segments, we identify state and local governments and private and nonprofit organizations as our target customers. According to our research, total annual revenue generated by the homelessness market is about $15.9 billion, and that's only been growing annually at an average rate of 4.1% for the last 5 years. And revenue is predominantly generated through government funding and grants from government agencies and private organizations. Unfortunately, the impact of COVID will continue to drive an increase in homelessness, and many cities have already approved additional funding for housing solutions. Within this, 32% of the industry consists of temporary and emergency shelters, and these see the highest volume of cases and also have the highest resident turnover. So we see this as our serviceable market. Realistically, we think that over time we can capture about 10% of that market. So our obtainable market is around $500 million. We tend to price our product at $2 per form processed. And we really want to stress the cost savings, both in terms of work hours and employee wages. On average, it takes a caseworker about 25 minutes to process a form. So by taking an average salary of these caseworkers, this translates to roughly $10.42 in wages per form processed. With our pricing at $2, we'll be saving organizations $8.42 per form. And the organizations we're targeting process about 300 forms per year. So we think we can save these organizations more than $2,500 annually. But what's more important here is that that equates to 125 work hours saved. When looking at our revenue forecast, we think that we can penetrate about 25% of the LA market in our first year, and that will result in roughly $41,000 in revenue. By year 5, we anticipate to capture all of LA, and we'll begin offering our products to other cities within California with homelessness as a big problem, such as San Francisco. So this gets us to just under $500,000 in revenue. I want to note here that this is a pretty conservative view. As Ishan mentioned earlier, we do see many other use cases for a product beyond just homelessness. So if we're able to capture those markets, we can see a significant uplift in revenue. Now, we will be running extremely lean our first year. We'll really be looking to develop our product and offer a proof of concept for organizations. And so once they start seeing value, and of course, once we start seeing market fit, we intend to invest in continuing to develop and improve our product. So for years 2 and 3, we expect to see a negative income. However, by year 4, we anticipate to be operating with a positive cash flow. Our team consists of aspiring technologists with backgrounds in engineering, business, and finance. We operate within 2 teams, our product team and our technical team. And we are asking for $175,000 in fundraising. These funds will be used mainly to develop our product and will give us about 24 months in the runway. This provides us enough of a safety net in case we incur any unexpected costs. And with that runway, we also anticipate to become cash flow positive before needing to raise another round. And we want to thank you all for your time, and we'll open that up to questions.
Thank you, team. Judges, we have 10 minutes for questions.
Hey guys, it's Jade. Super inspiring pitch. I absolutely love your mission. One thing that came to mind, and when Ishan was talking about having a bigger audience and the forms, being able to be generic, I was thinking about the refugees, and we know that the refugee crisis is growing all across the world. And one thing that comes to mind is the RIC, the International Refugee Fund. Could you guys see that as a market expansion for you?
Sorry, Jake, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think as Ishan mentioned earlier, this product really has a very general use case, right? So wherever there is a form processed and wherever there is manual labor involved, we can definitely play a role there. And to your point, I think it's a very big issue that we should address. And to expand it beyond just that Los Angeles market, it's definitely, you know, top of mind. Nishan, you want to add on to that?
Yes, certainly. So the technology we're leveraging to make this kind of thing possible has only really become accessible over the past couple of years. And we're sure that there are many organizations that may be in-house doing a lot of work for automating the processing of such documents. However, we anticipate that this is not going to be, or rather, particularly in areas where there is service involved with refugee crisis, as you mentioned. Organizations have much more important things to work on and much more important things to focus on. And where we can come in is come in with our expertise developing these specific customized document processing tools and basically function as an external team that is able to advise on these solutions and develop these solutions specifically for industries. So even though Amazon TextRact exists, which by the way we tried and didn't work out, it's not so great. Azure has been a lot better. And even though these other tools like Azure services exist, it takes a lot of engineering to turn that into something that an organization can use on a daily basis. And that's kind of the market that we hope to fill.
Sort of a follow-up to Jade's question. Have you guys considered language? So there's, you know, obviously homelessness comes in all languages. How did you take that on with this product?
So with this particular challenge, especially in LA County, in our research, we found that typically that the people who are filling out these documents are the caseworkers and not the homeless individuals themselves. The CES form that we demonstrated earlier does support indicating a number of primary languages. And in such cases, typically caseworkers will be themselves fluent in the language that the client they're working with is used to communicating in, but themselves will fill out the form in English or one of the other primary languages supported by CES. Azure's solution is fully capable of working with these languages, and therefore so is our solution we're capable of integrating with those. We could also introduce accessibility features. So for example, of course, our form is digital and keyboards often don't have, for example, the necessary characters that other languages might use. So we could integrate such accessibility features so as to make it easier to edit the information that is extracted as well.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about, I think you made a statement earlier on that there are no competitors for your product. How does this differentiate from intelligent OCR platforms that are out there? There's so many IOCR tools. I'm just curious, how does yours differentiate from that?
I think where our solution comes in is how customized it is. So even with technology as sophisticated as Amazon's TextRact service, which does optical character recognition as itself and is itself the backend for many of these OCR solutions, and the competing offer from Microsoft Azure, we found that when we did this extraction, the information we were getting back was not nearly complete enough to be able to generate something that people can import automatically. So we had to implement on top of that an additional layer of logic, first of all, on how the form works, which fields are required, which fields kind of make sense. So for example, it wouldn't make sense if the name field is filled completely, but then right after that, it says data not collected. The text recognition from these services really, at least at its current stage, is not powerful enough and not accurate enough to be able to generate these forms completely and accurately. So where we come in is providing an interface between that and the specific solution that a customer wants. Because really the solution doesn't work if it's only 60% accurate or 70% accurate. We then have people spending almost the same amount of time correcting things and fixing things around. It's in its customizability, we feel, that our product really differentiates itself.
So
I also want to add, I also want to add that the other products out there are pretty commercialized, and for them to put in the amount of development work in order to work with government solutions would be, quite the investment.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
I just have a quick question. I may be a little confused. is the product using the homeless caseworkers as an example, or is it the purpose? And if I'm not clear on that, what I mean is it looks like a product that can, and you correctly said it, that it can do or be used for multiple things. But is it, if you were selling this today, would it be to LA County or City of LA or whatever to help with the homeless situation, or is that just an example of the use of the tool?
Yeah, I could speak a little bit on that. So for this purpose, we decided to focus mainly on caseworkers because they're the ones basically who are helping these people get housed, right? We see in the future, though, as Zoe mentioned, that there's potential for there to be a predictive modeling segment, and that's difficult to do on just with our solution, but we can possibly integrate that with some of the research that UCLA is doing. For example, the California Policy Lab, they're actually working on that right now to optimize the predictive modeling or the addition of the generation of the acuity score. And so where our solution can come in is provide that type of data for this policy lab and kind of collaborate with them in the future to allow this predictive modeling system to come for all of the county, I guess. So for now, it would be for caseworkers, but we can definitely see the potential for expansion.
Then I have a silly question. Control Z is an interesting name. So you're undoing, and what are you undoing as a team?
Well, I guess the idea is that when people are working with these documents and then they're importing information into the system digitally, and this is something I stressed in my product demo as well, there is scope for human error, especially if you're doing a 20-page document. You're going to mistype some things, misselect some things. There's a lot of Control Z involved there. So our product name is kind of the problem that we're addressing, in that they don't need to do any of that anymore. And our product is able to come in and provide the most accurate information, leaving only the fields that it was not able to detect, which of course we expect to get a lot better over time for them to complete.
Thank you.
I have another question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought this was a really cool concept, and the city wanted me to be interested and learn more about it. But I guess one question is in the roadmap. So right now it looks like you can load one form up at a time and then throw it to CSV, but could you scan multiple forms, do the quality control check, and then batch a bunch into CSV? Or how does that work?
Yes, certainly. There's nothing about a solution. It's only for the sake of demonstration that we made an app that's able to do one form. But the solution is fully generalizable to taking in as many documents as whatever our subscription to Azure can support. So there's nothing preventing from us implementing it that way. In that case, what would happen is we would be able to select several documents and then kind of go through them one by one, make sure everything looks right, or go through only the documents where something is flagged for human review. We've really emphasized building in very strong human review standards because this data is really important, and very important decisions are made based on this data. So certainly that's something we would implement in an actual product.
Okay. We're out of time for questions. Thank you, team. Thank you, judges. We're going to move on to the quarantine.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Today, we're going to be introducing you to our website, Rebound. But before we go into that, I would like to introduce you all to our lovely team. We all come from a variety of backgrounds, but over the past few months, we've worked together, and we're really excited to show you the product that we've been working on. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has been extremely difficult for people all across the country. There were 1.5 million job losses in LA County itself as of July 2020, and 616,000 of them were low income. Unfortunately, people in these low income jobs don't have a proper resource to help them find new ones.
They are just as valued and needed in society as those with higher earning jobs, especially now, and we wanted to create a solution to help them. Really quickly, I'd like to tell you a story about Madeline. She works with my mom as a preschool teacher, and teaching is what she has always known. When the pandemic hit, she didn't know what else she could do and didn't know where to start either. Similarly, Greg is a college student who works in retail. When he lost his job, he was very overwhelmed and didn't really know how to get a new one. We realized that a common thread between these two people was a lack of a proper resource that makes it easy to job hunt for low-income jobs. As we looked into this issue a little more, we realized how big it was, specifically in LA County. The max unemployment rate was 20.8% this year, which is over 4 times greater than in 2019. The estimates of job losses were highest in LA County, which is highlighted in red, as compared to anywhere else in California, with a number of 616K. Industries that rely heavily on lower wage workers include food services, retail, and more, and they've been hit extremely hard, as you can see. Our solution to address this issue is to create a website targeted for people in these industries to make it more efficient for them to find a job. Our website will allow users to upload a resume, and our algorithm will provide them with 2 solutions. Now Richard's going to run you through our actual website.
This is the Rebound website. When users enter the website, they are immediately greeted with 2 buttons. The Upload a Resume button, which walks the user through the process of uploading a resume, and the For Employers button, which walks the employer through the process of uploading a job listing. As we move on, we implemented a slider, which provides a little bit more information about our product and the process that users can expect as they go through our product. We wanted to make sure that Rebound relays a sense of credibility and legitimacy, so we made sure to include some testimonials. As you can see, some of these faces look a little bit familiar, but rest assured these are our valued customers. Now let's try uploading a resume. Here on this screen, users are greeted with a drop-down where they can choose between healthcare, education, or fashion. But for now, we'll leave it at all industries. Users can upload a resume. Here I've prepared one, and we can submit it. Users are taken to the results screen where we have actually implemented 2 different solutions. Please keep in mind that at this moment, this is dummy data, but we are planning on implementing the model later on. Isha will go more in depth later about our 2 solutions. At the moment, our first solution provides the top 3 jobs that are the most ideal to the user skill set. As you can see in this case, I have an 85% match for the position of events manager at the company Qubit, although I am missing some skill in Microsoft Excel. The second solution we have implemented is recommendations for the user, other industries that match the skill set. Here I have a match with leisure, travel, and tourism, marketing and advertising, as well as consumer services. As we continue through the slider, we get information similar to the top. Another feature that we offer is for employers. Employers can upload a job posting, which will then be uploaded to our database, where our team will receive it and add it. Overall, Rebound offers a simple and comforting design that allows users of any background to easily upload a resume and receive the results in a matter of clicks. And now I move on to Brandon, where he talks about the social impact.
Hi. So one thing that we wanted to demonstrate is the social impact that we are having. For us, we're considering our social impact to be our effect on unemployment as individuals are able to find a job using our sites. Because we have just launched, we don't have historical data yet to see what social impact we are having as of now. However, we can generate a model to demonstrate what social impact we might be capable of as our website grows. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, total unemployment in the US as of October 2020 was 11.1 million unemployed individuals. This graphic here demonstrates how we might be able to decrease this unemployment over time. This graph depicts how total unemployment will decrease over the course of a year based on different percentages of unemployed people finding jobs through our site every month. For example, if 10% of unemployed people find a job every month through our site, we expect total unemployment to decrease by 10% in November, another 10% in December, and so on. As you can see from this graphic, total unemployment starts off at a constant 11.1 million individuals if Rebound is helping nobody find jobs. As the percentage of unemployed people who are finding jobs with our site increases, total unemployment decreases at a faster and faster rate. This graphic demonstrates that increasing the percentage of people who are finding jobs through Rebound by just a little bit will have a drastic effect on total unemployment over time. Therefore, Rebound definitely has the potential to have a large social impact as it continues to grow and help a higher and higher percentage of unemployed individuals. Now I'll let Alekia talk to you about the competition we might be facing.
We conducted a SWOT analysis to understand our market better. Our strength is that we focus on low-income earning sectors. Our weakness is that there are already established competitors who have higher brand recognition. Our opportunities are that we use AI ML models, and our threats are that we have low brand recognition because of the already established competitors. As we can see, most of the competitors do not provide a compatibility score, and a lot of them do not focus solely on low-income earning sectors. Moving on to the next slide, we have a competition matrix from which we can see that Rebound focuses on low-income jobs, provides a job compatibility score. So that means that we provide a score that lets you know if you are a good fit for the job. We use AI ML technology and suggest career change recommendations. Based on our evaluation, LinkedIn is a comparable product, but it does not solely focus on low-income earning sectors. I will now pass it on over to Pauline.
Thanks, Alicia. So basically how we plan to fund this, our solution, we plan to be a nonprofit, and we're going to rely on grants, primarily federal and non-federal, such as foundations, charitable donations using platforms like Facebook and Fundly to raise awareness, and corporate philanthropy and partnerships. Next slide. To grow our platform, we rely on 3 sources, primarily partnerships, advertising, and social media. An example of a partnership is with a nonprofit called Dress for Success, which focuses on women's employment and workforce development, such as professional clothing donations and resume help. So they don't actually do anything with application process itself. They can reroute their constituents to us to recommend Rebound. On the advertising front, we're planning to rely on sources such as Hulu streaming, now that people during COVID are using a lot of streaming services, and on social media. Digital has been important these days, especially during this time. And so we plan to establish a digital presence through Instagram, Facebook, and communities like Nextdoor. And with this growth, we plan to have a post-launch timeline, goals of, next slide. These goals of increase in product views, users, and partnerships as well. With this, our growth plans, we hope to be able to encourage more users to apply and encourage more employers to use our platform, and therefore increase employment for low-income wage workers. And I'll pass it off to Brandon to talk about data.
So one thing we do want to mention is where we're getting our data from. In the beginning, we used example resumes and job listings from Kaggle in order to build and train our machine learning models. We also use sources such as the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Open Data, and the Federal Reserve Bank in order to create the graphics throughout this presentation. As we continue to grow and gather more users, we will have access to more and more data to use as users enter their resumes and job listings. We can securely anonymize and protect their data and use it to continue to improve our machine learning models. Eventually, as we grow even larger, we hope to partner with a job site like Indeed in order to get access to even more data. In return, we can provide our tools and help Indeed target lower income individuals as well. Also, we can offer to direct our users to apply to jobs using the Indeed website. With this larger amount of data, we will refine our models even further to provide the best experience possible to our users. Now I'll let Richard talk about cybersecurity.
Now, Rebound is dedicated towards making sure its users are safe and secure. At the moment, when a user uploads their resume, our model uses regular expressions to remove phone numbers and the emails before we upload it to our database. This ensures that we avoid any sensitive information data leaks. In addition, Rebound is planning on implementing the Cloudflare security product, a very popular security product used by many established companies such as Uber and Discord. With the price of $200 a month, the Cloudflare business plan is very great for small businesses with its small price as well as extensive services. Such services include the web application firewall, as well as their free SSL certificates and custom uploading. Now we'll move on to Varchosvi.
Our solution relies on keyword extraction from text, which we implement using machine learning. We use natural language processing to extract information from resumes and job postings provided to us by our users and partners. Our program is coded completely in Python, and it uses a model called TextRank to extract keywords from texts. TextRank is a model based on PageRank, which is the algorithm used by the Google search engine for ranking web pages. TextRank is an unsupervised algorithm, meaning that it doesn't need training data to learn from and can perform on whatever text you provide it. The algorithm takes in a text input and starts by tokenizing it, which means it separates the text into smaller units called tokens. In our applications, the tokens are going to be the words in the document. Next, these tokens are assigned their parts of speech tags, which describe the word's roles in the English grammar. Some examples of POS tags are nouns, adjectives, verbs, etc. And this is useful for determining the relative importance of certain words over others. And in the next step, TextRank, since it is a graph-based algorithm, it graphs the tokens generated from the text based on how those words are related to each other and forms the connection between those words. After this, the scoring algorithm is performed on the graph where the words get assigned scores based on their importance. This algorithm takes into consideration not just the frequency of the word, but also its co-occurrence with other important words. After generation of the importance score, it ranks them in decreasing order, puts it through the post-processing phase to identify more complicated keywords, such as words that occur together and make more sense when they're used together. And at the end, it outputs the keywords ranked on the basis of their scores. So this model will be used in the implementation of both aspects of our solution, which Isha will discuss next.
So the backend model of our MVP has two components. The first is a job matching model, which we can see here. It takes a PDF resume and a CSV file of compiled job postings that can be accessed by the website. Right now, it's accessed as a local file, and I'll demo that in a moment. But the user also indicates a specific industry, as Richard showed us before, that they're interested in finding positions for, and we'll find strong matches for them due to that. After the job postings are filtered by industry, the filtered postings and resume go independently through natural language processing and the keyword extraction model described by Varchosvi. The natural language processing also includes some of the cybersecurity aspects that Richard mentioned a moment ago. This step is super important because as it parses through the raw text, it makes it so that we can more accurately pass it through the keyword extraction model. And at this point, we can apply a cosine similarity function on the resume with each individual filtered job posting for that industry to determine a match similarity value. Finally, the postings are sorted and we output the top 3 postings that our model determines to be the best fit. Next slide, please, Richard. So the second service implemented by our backend code provides top industry suggestions for a user based on their resume, hence our name, Rebound. For this model, natural language processing and keyword extraction are performed on every single posting. This generates an intermediate database, which is a slightly complex group of parallelly implemented arrays. So by parsing through the keywords for each job posting, the model accounts for the frequency with which specific skills are sought out by employers for each industry. So each field then has its own list of skills and the frequency with which each skill is required converted into a percentage. We do this because this way it won't matter how many postings there are for a given industry, and it won't give an unfair advantage to different industries because skills will just be contextualized as a percentage. For example, in the field of customer service, communication may be a skill in 65% of postings, and our values will.
The database can then be developed and added to, in theory, at any time, so that when a user inputs their resume, the text is quickly parsed and a match score is generated for them for each industry based on the skills listed with priority in our intermediate database. Fields are sorted by match score, and the top 3 rebound industries can be suggested. The idea at this point is that the user could then use the first model to find top job postings in these industries if they're interested in them. And on the next slide, we can see a screenshot of our dummy data. So this is what we use to test the efficacy of our model. Having separate sections, especially for requirements, was really helpful for parsing and accurate keyword extraction, as well as runtime and storage in the future. And this is definitely something we hope to further implement so that we can best compartmentalize our input. To show an example, I'm going to share my screen really quickly. I downloaded our code and I managed to run it in the time that we were presenting right here. And so this is just based off of the dummy data that we were looking at before. We take an example resume with the dummy data. This probably is in the way. And this is what the output looks like at this point in our development. So at the top, we have our top 3 job suggestions. It outputs the title of the job, the score that we gave for this position for this specific resume, and then a brief description of the company. But that's just the way the input was formatted. And then on the bottom, we have the top 3 recommended rebound fields, again, coupled with a score. Over time, I'm excited to continue implementing helpful features to refine our model and the accuracy of our recommendation in a series of ways, which Varshasvi will now go into.
Since our current solution is the minimum viable product, we have made the following plans for future growth, which we would like to work on after the bootcamp. In the interest of time, we're only going to discuss a few of them currently. Firstly, we want to use Amazon Web Services to integrate our model into the website that we created using cloud computing. This would ensure not just instantaneous results for job seekers, but also facilitates model execution and data storage online. We have an architecture designed and ready to implement, which we will discuss soon. Secondly, we may aim to partner up with job sites such as Indeed, and not just job sites. We want to partner with companies that are actually hiring in these targeted industries, because such industries are usually lacking representation in traditional job sites. And lastly, we want to enhance our model by extracting more thematic and contextual information from the text documents instead of solely relying on the keywords as it currently is. This can be done using more sophisticated NLP models such as BERT, which can be used to create encodings for the text and calculate a math score in a similar fashion. And this will be made easier once we move to cloud hosting, where we can get easier access to devices called GPUs, which are required to run such heavy models. Next slide, please. So this is a high-level architecture of our service and its implementation on AWS. We can see that in general, a user is directed to a private network where we have a load balancer to distribute the traffic, and then we have web servers and application servers. And as you can see, every time a user uploads a resume, it's transferred to the S3 bucket, and then it's run through Amazon SageMaker, which is the machine learning model, and the outputs can be stored in a database. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer detailed questions on this in the Q&A section. So thank you so much for your time and attention. We'll now proceed for the questions and answers.
10 minutes for question, judges.
Anybody? So I'll go again first. I'm sorry if I'm hogging time here. Amazing question for you guys. You mentioned your model being based on more of a .org, but yet you do have a cost to serve. How do you, and I think you touched upon this a little bit, but besides just fundraising, how do you plan on financing the company and getting to a place where you're profitable eventually?
I think currently we are we have sort of decided we want to look into like grants and fundraising in order to have money to support our site. But eventually we want to look into maybe advertising on our site or partnering with other companies in order to continue to raise money.
Yeah, and just to tag on to that as well, I think because of the abundance of other like job sites that do this as well. Obviously, like partnering with companies and having their postings on there at some point, once we prove like a level of efficacy, could be a source of income for us. But of course, right now we were actually looking into like the costs of maintenance for AWS and the sources we were looking into, and it came to around $60 to $80 per month, which is definitely something that we would hope to be able to cover with our current marketing goals in order to have that social impact, because this is such a crucial issue right now. But in the future, we would definitely look at like some of the really proved tried and true models that LinkedIn and Indeed are using to increase their profitability.
Yep, thank you so much.
So how are you measuring the hit rate? So let's say that you have a match, and that's a success to some degree, but that doesn't guarantee the employment. So are you also measuring if, let's say in your example, Greg, the 20-year-old, had a couple of hits, but he didn't get a job? Or, how are you retaining that information, and how's that being used? Do you continue to find a match until success?
So I think Rachasvi can probably touch on this a little bit more, because that definitely ties into our future goals. But that's definitely a model that we would want to incorporate in the future when we have real data. So that would kind of tie into like adjusting our scores based on, the people that actually get employed for a certain job. So let's say we gave someone like, oh, a 10 out of 10 for this job, but they were actually employed for something else, then that kind of tells us that we need to adjust our scoring. And that's definitely crucial information that we need. We probably could have created dummy data for that, but I don't know like how useful it would have been. It probably would have just kind of messed with the way the model produced output. But definitely, like once it's actually used and someone actually finds a good match, that would be like something that we would want to include, so that, because right now the numbers are kind of out of context. Like it tells you how closely the words match up, but it doesn't tell you in real life as much what your success rate might be. So we definitely want to include that.
So I really like your AWS architecture, your overall architecture, because that's extremely cost effective one, as you indicated, and it can scale. And so I just want to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
I'd like to pick up on the social aspect of this a little bit more. It's such an interesting niche that you're going after here. On the front end of this, what's the thinking on, again, you're going after lower wage sorts of situations. In that case, you could run into access to the web, so maybe a partnership with a library sort of thing. There is the resume itself, and how do you help a person actually construct a resume that's going to be useful in the system going forward? There'll be other kinds of resistances. I'd be interested in what you thought about sort of the front end of this on the people social side of it.
I think currently in our example website, we showed how if you upload a resume and you're missing a few skills, it'll tell you and it'll say you need to improve on these or explore on these. So we could definitely expand on this further in the future. And we can have our website really go into detail about how much improving certain skills or learning certain skills would increase your match with certain job postings on your resume.
And in terms of the, sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
You can go ahead.
I was going to say, in terms of the resume front, I think this is where we partner with other organizations that do this workforce development and employment programs, because our, I guess, like niche and our secret sauce isn't related to helping other people work on their resumes. So companies, like we mentioned before, the nonprofit like Dress for Success, they help with resume building. And so I think if we're able to successfully partner with organizations like that, we're able to kind of be there from the beginning of the cycle to the end. And on the internet access front, I think around 50 to 60% of people in the US have access to a desktop specifically, but yes, you're right. I think it would be great to partner with like a library to be able to offer, increased access to more internet or even tablets, and then hopefully maybe one day develop a mobile application version, but obviously they'll have to be different since the resume is not really mobile friendly, but that's an option, especially since smartphone penetration is higher than desktop penetration.
So I was going to weigh in. I know you talked about, for the business model, doing some partnering and looking at grants and workforce development programs. So like the City of Long Beach, we're part of Pacific Gateway, which is a regional workforce innovation opportunity network. I think would be an interesting, have you thought about partnering with a specific entity like that, and which does work with people on things like resumes and also with employers on matching people and using this tool in a pilot fashion with an entity like that? Have you thought about something like that?
Yeah, so we looked through different foundations. Other ones that came up were like California Wellness, but we just weren't sure, I guess, on if we were limited to one, does that require us not to apply for others? But so that's definitely a thought that we did think about. But going forward, we're not sure which one is the best way forward. But that's definitely that would help us a lot, especially locally in LA, since that is where we want to focus first, is in SoCal region, where we wanted to work with local like Long Beach foundations or Los Angeles foundations or OC, whatever.
Yeah, we did actually look into Pacific Gateway, and we found out about their free online training, workshops, and resources, and also information about job transition programs. And we think that that's definitely a successful partnership we could propose.
Any other questions?
I have one more question on your user journey. So from what I understand, the job is posted. Do you plan in your roadmap to have the actual applying of the job also on your site?
That would definitely be like an interesting component to include. I think just in terms of like working on the back end code for it, and just like as I was working, just so many ideas are coming up. There's so many things to implement, and I feel like we like a lot of questions touched on that as well, like enhancing our model and stuff like that. So I think as long as there's sites for people to apply to these jobs that can be linked on our website, I think I would prioritize other things first, just because I feel like a lot of like tech industry job finding websites do that because their competition is so high that if they didn't do that, they would just, not even be on the market. But I think right now, like the real need is just for people to like find those jobs and like know that they're there and know that they're a good fit. But I think later down the road, I would definitely models like LinkedIn and Glassdoor and stuff like that have features like that. That would be really cool. Yeah, to have it go like from the beginning to the end all the way.
I agree. I
Thank
think,
you.
oh, sorry, I was going to say, I think our website has a merit in the sense that there's no applying. You just simply put in your resume and you receive results in just a matter of clicks. It makes it very easy and very simple and very fast.
Thank you.
This was an impressive presentation. Thank you. And just kind of going off of the last question, I'm curious how you continuously engaged with your potential customers to enhance your product. You did talk about, Greg and Madeline in the beginning. I'm curious if you continuously engaged with your customers to improve your offering.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the beginning, when we came up with this idea, we really wanted to talk to people who actually do work in low income jobs and wanted to understand what their needs were and what they were really struggling with when it came to finding new jobs, especially with the pandemic and how a lot of people all across the country were losing them. And from that, we really just realized that the main issue that they had, that there wasn't a central resource that kind of combined all of those jobs together. While there are sites like LinkedIn, that's more so for networking or more so for those high income jobs, or these low income jobs are kind of scattered across. So for example, if you want to work in retail, you have to go through various websites like H&M Jobs or maybe like Zara, something like that. But there wasn't something that brought them all together. So we really just understood those needs and tried to create a website that targeted all of that. We were not able to kind of follow up with them about this website, but in the future, that's something that we would definitely like to do to kind of understand where we could improve a little bit better and what other things we could implement.
And I think the major block there before that can happen is straying away from our dummy data, because it would be cool to see how they like enjoyed the interface and uploading their resume. But in terms of the results, that the code would give them, I don't know that it would be very, because those aren't jobs that actually exist. So as soon as we start to like develop our model and like build that database, that intermediate database that I was talking about with real job postings, then I think it would be helpful to have someone go on there and be like, oh wait, they recommended this to me. I would actually like to do that. But yeah, it would definitely probably would have been helpful to like have people go through just to experience the front end and the design of the website, just to see how it worked for them.
All right, we're going to have to stop there. So that's the final presentation. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to take a 15-minute break while the judges are deliberating in a breakout room. So please get some coffee or tea or grab a snack, and then we'll come back in 15 minutes. So I'm going to move the judges to a breakout room while the others are taking a break. All right, we'll see you in 15. All right, we have all the judges here? I think we do. Yeah, we have everybody.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, okay. All right, so thank you for your patience. It was a tough decision. All the teams were great. You guys all did awesome. I mean, the short amount of time that you had, only 2 months, but you really gone deep into the analysis and all the great work you've done. It really paid off. So you're all winners. So, but the team that really got the top winner award is Control Z. Control Z is the winning team. So Control Z, congratulations. And what we're going to do is that next year, early in the year, we're going to have an event where we're trying to kind of finalize the event where you're going to be presenting in front of our members. So we're in the planning stages of that, and then we're going to reach out and see if you can do the same exact presentation to tech leaders in our member community. So, judges, do you have any final comments? And then I'd like Jim and Davida to just say a few words to close out the event.
You guys, this was so inspiring. I'm so just hopeful for the future with all the innovation that you created. So you guys should all be so insanely proud of yourselves. You guys have done an incredible job, and congrats to Control Z.
Now, I was just going to say, wonderful job to all 4 teams. It was obvious you put a lot of hard and good work and effort into them. So it was a difficult decision, but good job for everybody, and congrats to Control Z.
It was amazing. Tough choice, and really grace under pressure. You guys all really, you shone like you're just bright lights, all of you. Thank you for the work that you put in and for presenting so well to us.
Yeah, we were all very impressed with the technical solution and the way you were able to cobble in together all the different cloud services and architected it and demonstrated the viability of the minimum viable product. It was very, very impressive and how it all came together. So congratulations to everybody.
It was very exciting. It was great to see the passion as you presented and how articulate you were and how intelligent and the technology skills that were shining. It was just very, very good experience for me for the first time to be a judge on this. So congratulations to all of you.
All right. Thank you, judges.
Great job, Rafi. Great job, Rafi.
Thank you, students, coaches, speakers, presenters. Thank you all. I'd just like to have ask Jim and Davida just say a few words, closing remarks. Davida, Jim?
Yeah, go ahead, Davida.
Jim Davis, or Jim Rinaldi.
No, I don't. No, Jim Davis, I think can contribute quite a bit to this, and he had a lot of good feedback. But he's on mute.
I don't know if Jim is okay.
There you go.
I wanted, Jim, were you saying something? Jim Davis.
Well, I'll tell you what, Davida, I'll make a comment from kind of a judge and program standpoint, then you can finish off since you oversee the program. So I've done this multiple times at this point. I interact with students at UCLA all the time, and it never ceases to amaze me what all of you can do. And was not, the background discussion in the breakout room from the judges, with me included, is we were not at all disappointed. We were inspired with the presentations and what went forward tonight. I know from my IT background, and maybe speaking kind of from a CIO standpoint, it was so refreshing is not quite the right word. It's actually kind of future looking. The architectures, the way people were thinking about data, the savviness around the data, the breadth of the kinds of applications you were looking at are exactly where the future is going. And so I think it was just a very, very good evening. And I was personally very inspired with just listening to all four teams and sort of the breadth and expanse of the applications and what's possible here. So thank you. And it was a very, very good evening. And Rafi, thank you for organizing this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree with what everyone else has been saying. A lot of work has gone into this, an incredible amount of work with the students and thought gone into your solutions. It's amazing what you've accomplished in such a short amount of time with probably 6 to 8 weeks that you had. I also wanted to thank the YTP Planning Committee because over the years, the program has advanced. This is the most advanced that we've seen it so far, just the thought that you put into the solutions, the coaches who helped you to direct and guide you. And I'm just really very impressed. I want to thank all the Innovate at UCLA members too for attending and supporting the program over the years and seeing it grow. And the guests, if you've never, if this is your first time seeing something like this, we're really proud of how innovative and professional and forward thinking our students are. And I second what Rafi said, you're all winners. I'm sure it's very difficult for the judges to just select one. They're really not selecting one, but the amount of thought that you put into these solutions has been incredible. And I think that it's the beginning of, solving the scale of problems that the County of Los Angeles or any city or state government has to who are tasked with. And so it takes all of us to be able to solve those problems. And it starts with creative minds like yourselves to be able to come together and come up with some solutions. So incredible job. Thank you all. And I'll turn it back over to Rafi.
Rafi, if I could just say one,
Sure,
Jim. Thank you to all the students and thank you to all the judges and thank you to the coaches and the presenters. I mean, this seems like a very complete and well-organized event, and the outcome really showed that. And to the students, I would say, you have things you could put on your resume. If you don't have one, this is one of the first items you could put on there, that you participated in this event. And I think that what Jim was trying to say, and he said it really well, is it's encouraging to the rest of us. It's also a good forecast of what the future looks like. And thanks to being a part of UCLA is really excellent all to itself. But to see the students really perform like this is awesome. So thank you all. And again, Rafi, thank you for your excellent leadership.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Davida. Thank you, Jim Davis. So what I will do is I will send all of you a certificate of completion, of participation. It's not real, I mean, it's just a participation certificate. You can have that as part of your credentials. And then and also reach out to you for Control Z, for our event next year once we have finalized the planning of it, and then all the details, logistics of when, where, and so forth. So congratulations to all the teams. I'm going to miss the Wednesday meetings, but our next boot camp is in the spring of next year, and that's going to be an ideation kind of boot camp. So and we're going to open up the applications early January. So looking forward to the next event. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good luck on your finals.
Yes, that's right.
Happy finals, happy holiday.
Yes, that too.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Congratulations.